All right, Baltimore Ravens draft recap, a team that we always have to pay close attention to as they have, done a great job historically at drafting, and I think they did a, very good job here as well of getting some real talent. So first, what you see the chart next to me is first the number is when the player was selected, then the player name, the player position, and finally where they were projected to go via the consensus big board. You see first Malachi Starks, their first round pick at pick 27, really good safety, someone who just kind of always in position, but he can do unique things like cover one-on-one, which you will have to do when you go to Baltimore, but he can do that. He's a tackler as well, so should be a really good player. Can sometimes get a bit over aggressive, but the Ravens kind of like those guys, so I don't think that'll be any issue. He should be a very good player. A big part of why he was projected to fall a touch was largely just due to the due to the positional value, right? Safeties. A lot of people don't value safeties, but ultimately, if you're the Ravens, they kind of showed with Kyle Hamilton. If you get a great safety, they're valuable, and Hamilton's been very valuable. Starks should be very valuable. Interesting how they work that secondary now and where everyone's going to go, but yeah, that should be interesting. They then selected the 17th rated prospect. Actually, the highest rated prospect on the consensus big board that they got was in the second round, Mike Green with pick 59. Now, again, a touchy subject. I don't want to spend forever on it, but obviously he does have sexual assault allegations on his resume. He then went to a new school where they said, hey, if anything pops up, you're done. We're not even going to consider you. Something popped up again, and essentially the idea was the school didn't even really look into it. They said, hey, we said if anything pops up, you're done. This was the deal. You said yes to it, so now you're done. So then he finally finds his way to Marshall, where at Marshall, he, has a very good season at football. And as the old expression goes, if Hannibal Lecter ran a 4.3, NFL teams would say it was an eating disorder, right? And that was an actual NFL GM who came up with that expression, which is kind of crazy. But ultimately, why did Mike Green fall? I think we've seen from the NFL, they don't really care about the ethics of situations like that. I think they're concerned he could do something stupid to get him suspended, which is maybe why he fell. Also, I just think the fact that he dominated Marshall is a bit of a reason why he fell. I think the fact that it wasn't a higher, school, although again, he was recruited to go to higher level schools, just, got himself kicked out of those schools. But ultimately, that might not be the best phrasing, but you know what I mean. Ultimately he ends up going to, Marshall because of that, which again, he did play very well. He played very well when he did have opportunities to go up against competition. And again, you watch his tape, it is pretty impressive. So long story short, they probably got a really good edge rusher here who should help them out. But yeah, and it's also just kind of funny that these guys, funny is probably the wrong word, but kind of funny that these guys keep going to the AFC North. I don't know what's going on there. But ultimately, we can, finally sidestep past that very touchy subject and go to Emory Jones, the offensive lineman who was projected to go, early 90s, goes early 90s. So they kind of right along there where that's supposed to be. He is a player who is a very raw player, although he is someone who I think many people feel as though should be a guard. And so anytime you do that, there is a bit of projection. Do you start him at, you want to move him to guard and see how it works? Sometimes that works out really well. Guys who maybe don't have the production in college but play, move positions in the NFL, it actually works better. Sometimes it just doesn't work at all. Does have the physical traits, though, to succeed. So that makes you feel better if you're a Ravens fan. They then drafted with pick 129, Teddy Buchanan, not exactly sure if I said that name right, a linebacker who a lot of people thought might be more of a special teams guy, someone who, I don't know if you fully feel like he has the traits to be a complete starting off-ball linebacker or anything like that, but at pick 129, I do think that they feel as though he could at least be a contributor. Usually you don't spend that pick on special teams. So very interested there. Again, the Ravens have done a pretty good job at getting, these players late in drafts that are effective. not exactly sure I see the vision here with this player. So maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm a little bit confused. He's a player who was very good at UC Davis before transferring over to Cal last year. Last year, though, it was a step back when he's going up against tougher competition. There still is some quality traits here, but as a whole, again, I'm not sure I fully see the vision right now. They then drafted a tackle, Carson Vincent, out of Alabama A&M. Yes, Alabama A&M gets a player drafted here who, quite frankly, really long arms, so good frame for a player. Did not have great numbers at playing at Texas A&M, which is not exactly the elite level of competition. And when he did go up against good competition, he really struggled. So, again, not fully sure I see the vision here with this pick as well. Feels like someone that they think they can coach up. I guess that's the vision. Can we coach him up? Maybe not sure if we're gonna see him getting too much playing time, but we'll see. Who knows? They then go with Bahale Cone is their next selection, who is a guy who is someone who. The thing you look at with him, cornerback who has really good, has some good traits here at 6'2", 190, can move very well, can be explosive at times, but isn't necessarily known for his footwork. And so this is a guy you have to coach up, which at pick 178, again, you can do that, right? We're starting to get to the point in the draft where that's kind of more understandable, and you kind of get that a little bit more. At pick 186, they select Tyler Loop, which, again, another touchy subject we have to talk about. Not with him. He's just a kicker. He just kicks footballs. But obviously, the Justin Tucker thing of this feels like you don't really draft a kicker unless you're going to start a kicker, and feels like this might be it for Justin Tucker. I guess maybe, if we'll see. But, yeah, this is quite the situation here. But, again, hey, you probably need a kicker, let's just be honest. So going out and getting a kicker. Now, the drafting a kicker thing is always an interesting discussion. At least I think it's an interesting discussion because, on one hand, like, a kicker is absolutely worth pick 168 in a vacuum. Like, Justin Tucker added way more value in his Ravens career than most of these players that are getting drafted right now. The issue is you just don't know with young kickers. A lot of times you draft a kicker and they just don't work out, or kickers that weren't expected to be that great end up being great. It's just really hard to predict, and that's usually what the argument against drafting kickers. It's less about the positional value and more about is Loop going to be a great kicker? Well, we'll see. Next up, the Ravens drafted a player who is a very Ravens pick, I would say. LeJohntay Wester out of Colorado, a wide receiver who is projected to go undrafted, but he does get drafted at 203. Is a guy who, why was he projected to be undrafted? Well, because he's 5'11 and 167 is currently what he is, weighing. So, okay. Will you be able to have the size to work? I don't know. And it's not like he's the most explosive player either, so that is concerning, right? But ultimately, he was just a good player, and especially when he played at FAU, he had some, really good games and had really good statistics. So, could he be an effective player? Like, I don't know if they're just drafting him to be special teams. I think maybe there's hope he can be more than that. And next, they went with Aeneas Peebles here, who, again, I think the argument against him, okay, he's sort of 290 and isn't that explosive, isn't very quick with some of this stuff. So that's the concern. And again, he's not a huge guy either, only 6'1" and 23 years old. So, okay, well, what's to like about him? Well, he's good at football. Like, he was someone who last year was Pro Football Focus's 7th highest graded interior defensive lineman. Okay, that's pretty good. Had a great pass rush grade, especially, and really good pass rush win rate. 17.8 pass rush win rate. That's a good edge rusher's number, let alone interior guys' number. So that stuff is exciting. Again, the measurables, we'll see if he can make the transition to the NFL. But again, this is what the Ravens like to do, is let's just get good players, and sometimes they'll work out, sometimes they won't. But these late picks, a lot of times they don't work out anyway, so let's at least get someone who has potential to work out, and I think it makes sense. Finally, they went with Robert Longerbeam, who is a 5'11", 180 corner, so smaller guy who people feel as probably will be a slot corner, even though he played in college mostly on the outside. So that could be interesting. Not a great tackler, though, so I do wonder exactly what the vision is here with him as someone who maybe could be a slot corner, but I guess maybe they just want to bulk him up a little bit. But also, if you play, special teams, you got to be able tackle usually. So not exactly sure what's going on here with him, but my guess is special teams, and maybe they can try and figure out something defensively as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Ravens and their very fascinating draft. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Okay, while editing, I just realized I forgot to talk about the last player, Garrett Dellinger. On my notes, it was cut off when I was reading it. Should this be a pretty good guard who's had pretty good production from LSU? Solid pass blocker. Probably never going to be in a starting role unless something goes horribly wrong with injuries. But if something does go horribly wrong with injuries, at least you should have an okay player who's going to come in and not be a complete disaster. So yeah.